Well, it's interesting. When IBM got into serious trouble, they brought in McKinsey and Company, and they paid them millions of dollars. And McKinsey and Company went out and scoured the entire country, did interviews, research, focus groups, and came back and sat down with the heads of IBM and said, "We found your problem." And they said, "What's the problem?" They said, "Low sales." They said, well, "Great, we knew that." He said, "What's the solution?" And they said, "The answer is high sales." And so and Dun & Bradstreet did a study, and they monitor companies that come in and out of their databases, companies that go broke. They tracked them for many years, and they used to look at technical changes, undercapitalization, personnel, and so on. They finally concluded that the number one reason for business failure was low sales. Number one reason for business success is high sales. So one of the things they've done is they've gone back to companies, entrepreneurial companies, and they say to the owner, they say, "How important is sales to your business?" They say, "Oh, it's very important, most important thing of all. I mean, sales are everything." They go, "Well, let's track you and just see how much time you spend on sales." So they follow them around with a camera and a clipboard, and they find the average business owner spends 11% of their time on sales.
Oh.
The other 89% of time is spent warming up, warming down, having meetings, doing email, going for lunches, meeting with their bankers, working with staff problems, and so on, as they get away from it. And so the number one reason for business success is high sales. And so all you should do is be thinking about is sales all day long. And I have a rule that has always helped me is when your business gets into trouble, I say, when in doubt, sell yourself out.
Yeah.
When in doubt, sell yourself out. Generate revenues. And the only way you can generate revenues is you've got to sell something. And the reason why you sell something is you get out there and talk to people. I think it was either you or somebody else had this wonderful line. He said, the purpose of a business owner is to ask people for money. That's what you do. Isn't that great? You ask people for money. If you have spent a day where you haven't asked anybody for money, you haven't worked.
Yeah, I always come back to the simple thing. 80-20 rule, it's the old principle, the Pareto principle. And if 80% of the owner's sales time is on sales, then you'll be good. If 80% of it's on operations, you won't be good.
No.
And you try and balance that up with people, and they sit there and say, well, I'm not sure I can focus that much of my time on sales. And I say, well, you better dang employ some good people that can.
Here's the mistake that people make, Brad. Here's the mistake that people make. Guy starts a business, and most entrepreneurial businesses start because they've got one person who can sell well. If you don't have one person who can sell well, as you say, you better get one very fast. So they've got a product or a service that they like, and the guy goes out and sells it. And eventually, he turns the corner, and he's making money. He says, this selling is hard work. I'm going to get me a salesman, and I'll be the manager. Yeah. And so he pulls back to be the manager, and he hires a salesman. Of course, if the salesman was any good, he wouldn't work for him. So now what you've got is a lousy salesman and a lousy manager. And then the company goes into a downward spiral, and finally the manager says, I better get out there and start selling something, or I'm going to go broke. So they fire the salesman, he gets back into the field, starts selling again. This happens over and over again.
Yeah, no, my team always say, why don't you sort of kick back and just let us do everything. I said, because I'm the best sales guy I got, so I'm out there on the road. And people at seminars, they always think I'm joking when I say I've got one employee who's won Salesman of the Year every week for the entire 16 years I've run the company. And they always think that I'm joking because, the Salesman of the Week does get a nice prize. But the point of it is, you and I know that you got to make those sales, and that's what turns a business into a great business. Because you can always pay a guy to count the bills and pay the taxes. There's always going to be another gal that can run part of the business for you, or another guy that can handle something else. But if you can't make sales, you're never going to be there. Now, that brings me to the next question I got for you. In your mind, the true purpose of a business, how do you define it?
Well, the true purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. Now, this comes from Peter Drucker, because people say the purpose of a business is to make a profit. No, your purpose is to create a customer. As a matter of fact, when you're starting a business or you have a new business idea, the first job you have is to go and create a customer. Get a customer. Get someone to give you money for the product or service you're selling. And so profits are the result of creating and keeping customers in a cost-effective way. So as long as you're thinking all day long, how can I create customers? My friend Heinz Goldman wrote a wonderful book many years ago called How to Win Customers. one of the first books I ever read in selling, and the first book often has a major impact on you. 30 years of experience, and just how to win customers. And I think that is a great attitude toward running a business. How do you win customers, and how do you get them to choose you? How do you win the prize of getting them to buy from you? And you've got to think about that all day long. And if you do, then the result will be a profit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of interesting because a lot of the stuff I have to teach business owners around that is that, you got to understand you buy customers. You spend $1,000 on an ad, you pay $1,000 to a sales guy. If they get 10 people from the ad or 10 for the sales guy, well, you spend $100 a customer. You better get more than that in sales. So
yes, that I've read all your books, by the way, on instant everything because I was so impressed with them. And that concept from you, I share it all over the place. I say, you taught me that. You're in business to buy customers. That's what you do from morning to night is you buy customers. And if you can buy them efficiently, you make a profit. And if you can't, you go broke. It's a wonderful concept.
It's funny, though, when you look at your stock as the leads that you've got. See, I always try and teach people your leads are your stock. So if you spend $100 a lead and you got 1,000 leads out there, that's your stock level. Now, can you turn them into a profitable customer or not? And that's where I guess the primary focus of a successful business owner is sales. And maybe we should, I don't know if we should beat that one to death or we should, give people more insight to that one.
Let's just keep on going with these questions, and let's get to where we want to be.
The key measure of business success, then, the key measure of business success in your mind, what do you rate it as?
Well, to go back just one question, the primary focus of successful business owners is customer satisfaction, is pleasing customers, is that successful business owners think night and day of not only getting customers but making them happy. And wherever you see a business person who treats their customers indifferently or forgets about them or throws them over their shoulder, you see a business that will go out of business. So when you say the key measure of business success, the answer is repeat business. It's repeat business. People buy from you again and again. I say the most important thing is people buy from you and tell their friends.
Yeah.
So your job is to first of all create a customer, then to please a customer, and then to please them so much that they buy again. And sometimes I ask my audiences, I say, what's the most important sale with any customer? And the answer is the second sale. Because you can get the first sale by discounting, by deceiving, by accident, or by persuasion. But the second sale is the way the customer tells you you truly delivered on your promises. You did what you said you would do, and I'm back for more. That's the key to the future.
Now, I see there's a massive correlation between repeat business and profitability. I'm sure you see the same thing in the companies you work with and teach.
Absolutely. Here's the statistics. A resale to a happy customer is 10 times easier and cheaper than to find and create a new customer from advertising, sales, and promotion. So therefore, a resale is much more profitable. And the second thing I teach about is referrals. A referral is 15 times easier. A referral from a happy customer is worth a fortune to you because it saves you so much time in going out there and finding customers for the first time.
Yeah. It's funny, though, Brian, the number of people that take repeat business for granted, though. It's like you go to that gymnasium and you sign up for the first time, they give you the free shoes, the free towel, you get everything as the brand new customer. But if you go to do your re-sign up after a year of a membership, you say, well, what do I get? And they're like, you get to stay. It happens all the time, though.
Yes. Now, the fifth question that we want to talk about, what is the ultimate question that predicts the sales, profitability, and future of any business? This is what I consider a great breakthrough. I think your breakthrough is that a business is in the business of buying customers is very important because if you analyze your business through that, it gives you a totally different perspective on your numbers. This, however, I believe is one of the greatest breakthroughs in sales. There's a man named my mind went blank. Anyway, he wrote a book a couple of years ago, and it's called The Ultimate Question. It's based on 20 years of research with Bain & Company, working with some of the biggest and smallest companies in America to find out what the key to their success was. And the ultimate question was, based on your based on your experience with us, would you recommend us to others? That's the key question. And the companies that have embraced this have literally blown the doors off their industries. They literally leap to the top of their industries in terms of size, growth, profitability. And he goes on. Fred goes on and on in this book, and he explains that they set this as the standard. Would you recommend us to others based on your experience with us on a scale of 1 to 10? So every business owner has to ask on a scale of 1 to 10, and we encourage people to say to their customers, based on your experience with us, call them at home after they've gone home from buying and say, thank you so much for buying from us. Based on your experience with us, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend us to others? What they find is that people who rate you 9 or 10 represent 85% of your repeat business and your referrals. People who represent you 5 to 8 are what they call middle. Is they are reasonably satisfied, but they'll go somewhere else if something else comes along. People who rate you 1 to 4 are called detractors, and these people will actually badmouth you to others and drive your business away. So the question is, if you rated us below a 9 or a 10, what could we do in the future to get a higher rating from you? And when customers tell you, well, if you just did more of this or less of that, and then what you do is you do it, and then you call the customer and say, thank you so much, we did it. And that customer will become what is called a customer for life. The very fact that you acted on their recommendation totally transforms their perception of you. So the key question you always ask is, based on the way you've served your customers, would you recommend us to others? It's a wonderful question.
Yeah, I can see how that would work in any business, and especially with getting great ideas to move your business forward. And then, as you said, if you don't act on it, it makes no difference. But you take that action on it, it's going to be a big difference.
Yes.
So what I want to focus on just next is business has a whole bunch of assets, and we look at the people, we look at the customers, we look at even the stock in trade and think, what do you see as the most valuable asset of a business?
Well, I learned this from Theodore Levitt, who was the dean of the Harvard Business School many years ago. And he said the most valuable asset of a company is its reputation. Its reputation. Now, its reputation is what people say about the company and their experience with the company to others after they've experienced the company. Now, if I were to ask you, what's the most powerful form of advertising in the world, what's the obvious answer?
Yeah, it's word of mouth. It always has.
Word of mouth. And that is your reputation. And so, therefore, a company's reputation is the most valuable asset that it has. And its reputation is defined as how it is known to its customers, how its customers talk about the company, think about the company, and describe the company to others. Now, Reese and Trout wrote a book many years ago called Positioning, The Battle for the Mind. And what they said is that every company or product or service is usually summarized by 1 or 2 words by its customers. And your job is to own the words that you want your customers to think about whenever your company's name is mentioned. So, you know what the very best words for a service business is? Nice people. Nice people. They are really nice people to work with. You see, human beings are very powerfully affected by the quality of their relationships. So if you say, why do you go to this restaurant or this barbershop or this store or anything else? Well, they're really nice people. It's not that those goods or services aren't available everywhere else, but I go back there because the people are so nice.
Yeah.
Another thing, go ahead.
Yeah, keep going, please.
Well, so another thing, for example, BMW owns the words, the ultimate driving machine. They use this as their unique selling proposition. And I've worked with IBM or BMW, I'm sorry, a wonderful company, and I say, well, I drive a Lexus. They say, yes, but a Lexus is boring. BMW is the ultimate driving machine. BMW is fun. It's exciting. It's challenging. It's got all those wonderful qualities. A Lexus just goes straight down the road. Mercedes-Benz has taken the words engineering excellence. And so we assume that a Mercedes-Benz is worth more because it is an excellent automobile. What is McDonald's? They have 4 words. They're value, price, convenience, and service. Value, price, convenience, and service. You get good value, good price, good convenience, good service. They don't try to be a gourmet restaurant. Everybody knows when you go to McDonald's, the quality will be consistent worldwide, and it's enabled them to build the largest restaurant chain in the world. And so therefore you have to ask yourself, and this is a great question, is what do your customers say about you? What words do they use to describe you when you're not there? And second of all, what words would it be useful or helpful for them to use? And what could you do in every customer interaction to make sure that afterwards they say those words? That has to be the central focus of strategic planning and marketing.
Mm. And in this day and age of internet, Brian, I see it as getting even more important to manage your brand or the asset called your brand or your reputation out there.
Yes, and it is something that cannot be left to chance. Most people who start businesses, and most people listening to this are running small and medium-sized businesses, back into a business. You know, I sometimes joke with my sales audience. I say that selling is the ultimate default profession in America. Is nobody goes forward into selling and says, when I grow up, I wanted to go into sales. Is we back into selling accidentally when nothing else seems to be working. We say, well, I'll give sales a shot. Now, starting a business is often a default activity. People don't grow up and say, I'm going to go out and start a business. It's just the opportunity appears and they say, well, you know, it seems like a good idea, or they're between jobs, or somebody gives them an opportunity, or as you talk about, they buy a business and they default into selling or default into their business. And then they don't realize that one of their jobs is to think through, how do I want people to think and talk about my business? And this is something that the key person has to really give a lot of thought to. This is not something that can happen by accident. You must be very clear about the reputation that you want.
Mm. I think it's a very important part. Now, with all your books and the seminars and workshops, one of the subjects I really like is what you call your law of three. Can you give us a bit of an understanding and teach the folks that one?
Yes. Well, I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs in coaching sessions where I bring them in for a full day of coaching every 90 days for 1 year. And in that period of time, I will show them how to double their income and double their time off. And what I do is I cheat, because I front-end load the first half of the first of the 4 days, and I give them all the tools they need to double their income and double their time off in the first half day. I've even had people pay for an entire year of coaching and leave after 1 day and say, I don't need to come back. I've had my money's worth. And one of the things I teach them is the law of three. And I say, if you make a list of everything you have to do in the course of a week or a month, and these are all your activities from Monday morning to Friday or Saturday night, you then go over this list and you ask yourself, if I could only do one thing on this list all day long, which one activity would contribute the most value to my business? And then that will pop off your list. And then you say, now if I could only do two things all day long, which would be number two? And that will jump out at you, and you put a circle around that. And then if I could only do three things, what would be number three? And what we have found in every profession, and I've worked with chiropractors and neurosurgeons and homeopathic doctors and accountants and lawyers and venture capitalists and many business owners, in every single case, there's always three jobs that account for 90% of the value of everything you do in the course of the day. Just three things. And it's the most amazing thing. When you ask those three questions, they pop out, go pop, pop, pop. I say, now, next to these three things, everything else is a support activity or a follow-up activity. These are the three things that account for most of your income. Now, I also say they're very much like a triangle. Is you have the point of the triangle up above. The point is the most important thing you do, and the two parts of the triangle on the left and right, those are the major support activities that enable you to do the top three. For example, in selling, it's very simple. Prospect, present, and close. It's as simple as that. Prospect is the point of the spear. Get people to talk to. Present your product or service as the best choice, and then third, get them to take action. I said everything else you do in your sales life is basically a warm-up or a warm-down from that. And it's the same thing in management. In management, we say the most important things are to recruit, to set standards, and then to manage and motivate. Is you got to find the right people, give them the right jobs, and then make sure they do them. And so you just look at every single job, and there's three. And I say, now, if you want to really be successful, double your income, transform your life, is do more and more of fewer things, but more important things, and then get better at them. And I just repeat that. Do more and more of fewer things, the big three, and do them all day long, and then get better at them. And that will increase your income and your results faster than anything else you can do.
Very nice. Very nice. If if I break down one of those things, I think is very important for a business owner to do, and it might not be one of the top three, but it'd be dang close for a lot of them. How important is customer service to business success in your mind?
Well, customer service is so important, going back to what we talked about earlier, because it is the key to repeat business. And so you find that your very best companies have what is called a customer service strategy. And I've taught this in seminars and courses. You sit down and you say, what are the best customer experiences you ever had? And you make a list of them, Nordstrom's and IBM and Hewlett-Packard and Morton's Restaurant and so on. And you say, what do they have in common? And then you go and you isolate what they have in common. You say, now how could you incorporate the best experiences you've had with other organizations into your organization? Now, Jan Carlson used to be the president of Scandinavian Air Services when it was in real financial trouble, and he came in, he turned the airline around. And the way he did it is he took the organizational pyramid with the president at the top and staff at the bottom, and he turned it upside down. He said, from now on, the people who deal face-to-face with the customers, checking them in, serving them on the planes, he said, those are the frontline people in our organization, and all the rest of us serve them. Right down to me, the president, I'm at the bottom of the pyramid. I serve the people above me who serve the people above me. And he said, every customer contact is a moment of truth. Every customer contact is a moment of truth. It's a moment almost like an electrical connection where an emotional spark takes place that determines whether that customer is happy, whether that customer buys again, whether that customer recommends you to their friends. So what he did is he transformed the airline from a money loser to a money maker in less than a year by making sure that every customer contact was warm, friendly, efficient, positive, that people walked away happy that they were flying with Scandinavian Air Services. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do your customers leave you happy? One of my favorite examples recently, and I don't want to give free advertising, but I will, is Zappos. Have you heard of Zappos?
Yeah, look, they're here in Las Vegas. I send my team down there they do tours of their office, and Tony Hsieh is one of the greatest. So
yes, he just sold his business for $1 billion. And who did he sell it to? Either Google or somebody paid $1 billion.
Amazon. Yeah.
Amazon, yeah. And what they did is they decided that they were going to sell shoes, but they were going to make their customer culture so fantastic that once you bought from them, you'd only buy from them. And they did, and they're quite remarkable. I just bought an item from them last week, and it didn't work. And I called them up and said, it didn't fit properly. They said, send it back. We'll send you a mailing label. We'll send you a tracking number, and you just put it back in the box and send it back, and we'll pay for it. I said, that's incredible. And they really follow up. The joke with Zappos is if you order on the computer, you order a pair of shoes on your computer, you then push in order, and you have to run to your front door because the Zappos person will be there to deliver it. And it's almost that way, yeah. It's almost that way. If you order it up to about 5 o'clock, it'll be there at your door at 9 o'clock the next morning. I mean, you could darn near wear the new shoes to work. And so you think, wow, why would you ever go anywhere else? So what Tony Hsieh has done is he has made customer service, treating customers really well, a fundamental part of the entire Zappos culture. And literally, he's one of the top-rated customer service companies in the world. How long have they been in business? Just a few years? Wonderful.
Yeah, they started in 2000, so 2000, 2009. Took them 8 years to hit their first $1 billion in sales. I might actually have to add Tony to my list of masters to go out and get mentoring from for the whole gang.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of customer service,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Zappos hit on some of the most important elements of it. What are your thoughts on what are the most important elements of customer service?
Okay, well, here's the 4 key elements of customer service. And it's interesting how customer service has evolved, because I remember back in the 70s and 80s, companies would be very proudly brag that we meet customer expectations. Wow. We find out what our customers want, and we meet their expectations. And I say, today, meeting customer expectations is the bare minimum for survival, not growth. You will survive, you'll stay alive as long as you meet customers' expectations. It's an interesting thing psychologically, Brad, and this is very important in business, sales, marketing, anything else, is the primary source of negative emotions, anger, frustration, irritation, and so on, is frustrated expectations. Is people have an expectation that things will be a certain way, and they're not that way, and they become angry. They become frustrated. So sometimes what you have to do to people, and you have to say, is what were your expectations? well, I expected this or that or something else. So what companies need to do, first of all, is they need to find out what exactly is the customer's expectation in dealing with us. And that becomes the bare minimum. Now, so that the second stage, if you want to grow, is to exceed customer expectations. Now, how do you exceed customer expectations? You do more than the customer expects. For example, Zappos says, those clever little guys, they say your shoes will be delivered in 3 to 5 business days. That's when you place the order, and then beep, beep, it comes back up and says, this is from Zappos again, because you are such an important customer to us. We are going to, at no extra charge, expedite delivery and get it there within 24 hours. And you know what you do? You just beam. I mean, you look at that little message, you just beam, and the next morning it's there at your door, and you think, wow, that's, you expect when you order something from Amazon or anyone else to get it in 3 to 5 days. Now, that's an interesting point. If you sell something, people expect to get it 3 to 5 days. If they get it in 6 or 7 days, they start to get ticked off because the expectation is 3 to 5 days delivery. Well, then if they deliver it overnight, give you one of my favorite examples is Marriott hotels and room service. Room service, I've heard, is one of the very best barometers of the quality of the operation of a hotel. So you call Marriott and you order room service, and you better run to the door because they say, okay, it'll be up there within 30 minutes. And you say, oh, great. And you get into the shower, bang, bang, they're at the door. They make it a game to get it to you in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So they say it'll be there in 30
I remember years ago flying into Wellington Airport in New Zealand and actually coming around a baggage claim, and there was our bags on the carousel. And it wouldn't have been a 5-minute walk from the flight. And you walk in and you go, how are our bags on the thing? There's a big sign up there saying that, they challenge themselves to have your luggage out before you do.
Oh.
It wouldn't hurt any airline in the world. It wouldn't hurt any airport in the world to do that. But here's the thing: they don't make it a priority anymore. So, I think we're hitting on some of the big heavy ones here.
Yeah. So number 2 is to exceed customer expectations, and you can exceed it just by a little thing. I go to a restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant calls me 2 days later and says, "How was your dinner? Was there anything we could do better next time? We sure appreciate you coming. We'd really like to have you." Well, you damn near fall over. If you've lived under socialized medicine, as I did in Canada, the patients are treated like cattle. They just run through. There's 30, 40 people in a waiting room, then they're rammed through one after another after another. You come down to American medicine, and you go there, and sometimes you're the only person in the waiting room because that's the appointment. You have an appointment there. Well, then the biggest surprise I got is I go to a doctor in the U.S. for anything, and they call you at home that night and say, how are you feeling? Is everything okay? Do you have any pain, any discomfort? Do you have any questions? Or if you had some minor surgery, they call and speak to your spouse. How is he or she feeling? Is there anything we can get for you? The doctor does that. You think, oh, my God. I mean, the first time that happened to me was a periodontist named Dr. Peter Nordland. You know how long I've been going to Dr. Peter Nordland for teeth cleaning? Twice a year? 20 years.
And I'm sure you've recommended him a couple of times.
Everybody. And everybody who goes there, because it starts to accumulate. I go there, and I send my wife there, and then I send my kids there, and they send their friends there, and new people come in from out of town go there, and that practice is thriving. Dr. Nordland's probably one of the highest paid periodontists in the country, and he's got an entire staff working all the time. And everybody goes in there, and they're happy because they treat them so well. What is miraculous about this? So meeting, exceeding. Now, the third step is to delight your customers. And delighting your customers is where you go beyond exceeding expectations. So my favorite example, for example, is you go to Morton's, all right, and meet expectations. Your table's ready. They sit you down. They're polite. They're friendly. First-class restaurant. Everything's beautiful. That's meeting. Exceeding is I've been there more than once. They've picked a bottle of wine for me and decanted it, and it's on the table. They said, we know what kind of wine you like. We've picked one from our cellar. It's in the price range that you like. It's decanted. It's been open for 45 minutes, so it had a chance to breathe. Well, now, how do you think I'm feeling? I'm thinking, wow. Then dinner's fine, beautiful service, everything's great. And at the end of the dinner, they say, is there anything else we can do for you? No, thank you very much. And then they come by with a tray of either port or cognac or Bailey's, was it chocolate liqueur, and it's a big tray with glasses and everything else, and they say, this is a gift to you from Morton's. an after-dinner drink. What would you like? And so you walk out of Morton's beaming. And the next time you're thinking, honey, where do you want to go for dinner? Well, you can go here or there. There's 1,000 restaurants. Let's go back to Morton's.
Yeah.
and let's pick our friends.
The Morton family are synonymous with great customer service. Michael Morton, who here in Las Vegas, the Nine Steakhouse, and you know, I got to tell you, Brian, I've eaten there more times than I care to think, and that's the reason why. You know, yeah, they have great steaks, but the people take such good care of you and just delight you every time.
Now, here's the last point in the steps. So it's a meet, exceed, delight, and the fourth is amaze. Amaze your customers. Is do things, you don't have to do this all the time, but do things every so often that amaze the customer, that are just something completely beyond what you could imagine. Yeah. Like I go to one restaurant, a very fine restaurant, and if you go there on a regular basis, at the end of the year, they come by and they say, you know, the wine tonight is a gift from us. Pick any bottle of wine on the menu, whatever it costs, and it's a gift from us. And the wine can, it costs $100, $150 a bottle, and it's our gift. Thank you for being such a good patron. Who do you go back to over and over again? You and I must eat at too many restaurants, because the number of stories I have about great restaurants. But I go back to that Nine Steakhouse. There's a young guy that works there, Phil. He's been my waiter there for years, and I always request him as my waiter. And I remember one time my steak, I always have it medium rare, and it came out and it was probably medium well. And Phil said, "How's the steak?" And I cut it and I showed it to him, and I said, "Don't worry about it, though. I'll just eat it." Within 45 seconds, Phil is back at my table with another steak. He's run straight out the back, grabbed one off the burner, walks out with it on a plate, on a fork, sticks it onto my plate, stabs the one on my plate, takes it off, and just walks away. And it's like, that's funny. That's called amazing the customer. Yeah, amazing the customer. The group of guys I'm sitting there with, Brian, I'm sitting with a group of guys, and they all just look and go, "That's service." Yeah, that's service. And you tell that story to me. I tell it to someone else. I know the Nine Steakhouse in Las Vegas. It's wonderful. Great experience. Now, I live here in Las Vegas, the epicenter of all of the negativity when it comes to the economy at the moment. Generating cash flow in these sort of times, what are some of the best ways you can come up with for people to get onto that sort of thing? Well, there's a whole series of ways, but number one, as I said before, when in doubt, sell yourself out. Sell like hell. Just think of nothing but selling from morning to night, and sell at any price that is reasonable. Yes, people had an interesting experience. Do you remember Neiman Marcus, his very high-level department store, when the economy turned down at the last part of 2008, they proudly announced that they were not going to cut their prices. They were Neiman Marcus, and they were not going to respond to the financial crisis by lowering their prices. They were going to maintain their prices and their reputation for quality and elegance. Within 2 weeks, Neiman Marcus looked like you could shoot a cannon through it. The stores were empty. They almost went bankrupt because they didn't realize that people went to Saks and they went to Macy's and they went everywhere else. They didn't realize this was serious. This idea we're not going to cut our prices because we're too good. No, the fact of the matter is that as the business owner, your number one responsibility is the survival of the enterprise. It is to assure the survival of the enterprise, and you must do whatever is necessary within reason and law to assure survival, even if you have to sell products at half price to generate cash, if you have to throw in extra bonuses, if you have to load it up, if you have to go yourself to talk to your major customers and beg them to buy, the most important focus is to sell. And you've got to be selling all day long. And you must do anything. You must match any competitor that is offering anything similar to you. You must match them and do them something better. Sometimes I'll ask my audiences, I say, who sets your prices? I'm talking to a group of managers, business owners. Who sets your prices? We point to themselves. We do. Who determines your level of profitability? We do. Who determines how fast your markets grow, how many customers you have? How many of your products or services you actually sell? We do. They're all pointing to themselves. I said, no, you don't. Your competitors decide all those things. Your competitors determine your prices. Your competitors determine how fast you grow. Your competitors determine how much you sell. If you have to be equal to or better than your best competitor to stay alive in today's market. And so people have to realize that maybe last year they could charge this price. This year, your competitors set the pace. And what you do is, if your competitors are willing to alter their selling strategy, you must alter yours so fast it looks like it happens simultaneously. You cannot sit back there and say, well, business will get better next month. You've got to become more and more aggressive and then spend more and more time selling.
Yeah. Look, I think that is one of the most important things in a tougher economy. I mean, people have got to get used to the fact that this economy rolls in cycles, and you got to be ready for this thing next time round. Are you seeing a lot of people that were just not ready for it, and that's what hurt them most?
Okay, this is just a little bit off topic, but I've said that there's three enemies of success, the three great enemies, and number one is the comfort zone. People become comfortable doing things a certain way, and even if it's not working, the old saying, you never force anything. You never force anything. You just use a bigger hammer. In mechanics, even if it's not working, what they do is they just do more of it. They run ads that don't work, and they double their advertising budget and spend more money on ads. And so you have to realize that the market has changed, and when the market changes like this, it's never going to go back to the way it was before. And so you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. And one of the things that I do is I tell people, imagine that your business burned to the ground, and you arrived at your business, it was burned to the ground, and there were available offices across the street. So you could go over and start your business again. What products would you start up again today? What customers would you immediately get in touch with? What activities would you immediately start again? And what activities would you no longer engage in? What products and services would you no longer offer if you were starting your business over again today? And that's always a good question to ask, because what it does is, if your business burned down, you're forced out of your comfort zone. And so you've got to get out of the rhythm or the habit of doing things the old way. Now, the second major enemy is called learned helplessness. And this is a real problem in business. And in psychology, a person experiences learned helplessness when they have a sudden reversal. Things go wrong. The bottom drops out of their market. Sales collapse 50%. And they feel stunned, almost like the survivor of a bomb blast. And they're walking around stunned, and they feel helpless. They say, there's nothing I can do. I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, my market collapsed. There's nothing I can do. Well, this learned helplessness leads to the words, I can't. I can't. I want to, but I can't. And so people actually start to feel themselves as victims, and instead of counterattacking, instead of getting back into the game like a boxer getting back up off the mat, is what they do is they just collapse, and they just try to survive. Now, the third factor that kills people, the third enemy, is what I call the path of least resistance. Because people are always looking for a fast, easy way to get the results that they want, instead of realizing that the ways to get the results you want today may be very, very hard. You maybe have to go buckle down and turn off the television and quit socializing and put your head down, put your shoulder to the wheel, and work long, long hours if you want to survive today. And people are that's such a shock to people, because they're, especially in our Western society, they think, well, you should be able to succeed with, just a little extra effort. No, you're going to have to put in a huge amount of extra effort, and more than any of your competitors are willing to put in just to survive today's market. Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
I loved watching the movie The Secret and reading the book, and I think they did a great job. But there was one fundamental flaw with the whole book. There was nowhere in the book did they mention the word work.
Yeah, yes, that's absolutely right. And it leads many people astray, a book like that, because it leads them to think, well, I should be able to succeed without working. And if I'm not succeeding without working, I'm not rolling my eyeballs or thinking happy enough thoughts. And that ain't the case. In statistics, I was talking to a PhD in mathematics the other day, and there's an expression in statistics that says it is necessary but not sufficient. In other words, this number is necessary but is not sufficient to the whole equation. You have to have it, but it's not sufficient in itself. And it's important to be a positive and constructive thinker and to look for opportunities and to attract good things into your life. That's a necessary part of success, but it's not sufficient. What is sufficient is now you have to work your head off if you want to get anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talk about in your books and in your workshops result orientation and solution orientation. Take me through those for everybody, because I think they're very profound points.
Yeah, and these are so important because they are the real difference between success and failure. And basically, we say that you become what you think about most of the time. That's the great truism of all of Western intellectual thought. You become what you think about most of the time. So we interview successful people and we ask them, what do you think about most of the time? And it's the most amazing thing is they have developed habit patterns of thought that make them different from average people. I was listening to David McCullough, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, speak at a private conference the other day, and he said that the thoughts that you think repeatedly actually reshape your brain so you actually think differently from people who have not thought those thoughts. Now, I've taught this for years, and so I'd love to hear it. And he was talking about brain research. Basically, he said you form new neural pathways, which are like power lines that generate that carry electricity. As you think certain thoughts in a certain way, you generate new ways of thinking and new ways of behaving and new ways of seeing your world and reacting to it. So we ask people, successful people, what do they think about most of the time? One of the things they think about most of the time is results. Successful people are intensely result-oriented or result-focused, and they realize that of all the results that I could get, at any given time, there's one result that's more important than any other result. And what is that? And so I have written books and done articles and trained 1 million people in time management. I'm the best-selling time management author in the world, by the way. I'm in 27 languages. I've sold millions of copies of my books all over the world in time management. And I can summarize it all by saying this, is successful people pick the most important result for which they are responsible, and they start on only that, and they do only that until it's completed. Now, all the work in time management comes down to that one concept, the ability to set priorities, select what is more important from what is less important, start on what is most important, and do only that. And if you can do that, you can conquer the world. And all successful people have developed the habit of doing that. And all unsuccessful people have not. And therefore, they have to be supervised and monitored and punished and fired and demoted because they won't do the most important thing they're supposed to do. So result orientation. So you keep asking, what results are expected of me? And of all the results, what are the most important? That brings us back to the law of three. There's 3 results, 3 activities to get the major result, and those are the 3 things that you should be doing all day long.
Extremely important, extremely important. So the solution orientation and the result orientation, how do you get someone to take that step to that, though? Because it's really important to understand it, but then I got to do that every day.
Now, solution orientation, again, is the way that the top people think, and this is very important. All leaders think in terms of solutions. All successful people think in terms of solutions. And what that means is the average person, 80-20 rule, bottom 80% of people think about their problems most of the time, and they think about who's to blame for their problems. Top people think about the solutions to their problems and what actions that they can take now to implement those solutions. And it's a divergence. It's like coming to a split road, and one road it goes down into the depths and the darkness of the valley, and the other goes up to the fine, well-lit uplands. Is the job of the human being is to solve problems. Colin Powell, I worked with Colin Powell several times, and he said, leadership is the ability to solve problems. Success is the ability to solve problems. So what we find is that in life, you rise to your level of ability to solve the problems that confront you in your current position. If you solve those problems, like in school, you pass your exams, you get promoted. If you solve the problems at your level, you get promoted. If you keep solving those problems, you keep getting promoted until you're rich. Now, when you start thinking in terms of solutions, what can we do now? Don't tell me who's to blame. Don't tell me what happened. Don't tell me all the tragedies. Don't talk about the past or the spilled milk. Talk about what we can do now. What happens is you become more creative. And there was a study done that said that the critical measure of success is creativity. And creativity is measured by the number of ideas that you come up with to improve your life and work. And people who are always looking for new ways to solve problems tend to be more and more creative. They tend to come up with more and more solutions. They tend to become the go-to person in their organization. You got a problem, go to him or her. He or she's always got solutions. And the more solutions you come up with, the more solutions you'll come up with. And there's nothing that will put your foot on the accelerator of your life faster than developing a facility for solving problems and thinking about solutions all the time. And the wonderful thing is when you think about results, it makes you happy. Because when you think about results, you think about accomplishing things, you think about success, you think about being a winner. When you think about solutions and getting results, it makes you happy. It makes you more positive, makes you more optimistic, makes you more creative. So these are very, very important mental skills. And the wonderful thing is that they're all learnable by practice, Brad.
Yeah, we got to learn what it is first, then how it is, and the only way to get there is practice. That difference between having knowledge and wisdom, I guess, the actual application. Now, you are one of the most prolific writers. The book, The Flight Plan, I just want to go over that one with you for a little bit. You got a bunch of the key elements in there for personal and business success. Can we spend a little bit of time on that? I know we don't have much time left, but can we get a bit of time on that one?
Well, it's funny because when I read the book, The Secret, and looked at the movie, I found two things. I found the first half of the movie came from my Psychology of Achievement program, which I recorded with Nightingale Conant in 1983, and has been taught extensively all over New Zealand and Australia. People who watched the movie said, this is almost word for word from your program, because I was teaching it so many years ago. So it's not a big secret. The second thing I said is that this is something fundamentally wrong with this, because, as you said, it deletes the word work. So I came up with a book concept, and the book concept was called The Real Secret of Success. I sent it off to the publisher. I said, I've got a concept here, and the whole thing is based around an airplane flight. And you may have used this story before, but it's a story I started using. I found that people really enjoyed. I say, when you get on a flight from, you're in Las Vegas to New York, the flight will be off course 99% of the time. All flights are off course 99% of the time. The purpose of the avionics and the pilots is to keep the flights on course. However, when the plane takes off, the pilot says, we'll be landing in New York at 4 minutes to 5 in the afternoon. Please enjoy your flight. And at 4 minutes to 5, the plane lands in New York. Even though it had updrafts and downdrafts, and it had storm fronts, and it had headwinds and tailwinds and everything else, they can program it all into the computer, and it lands on the minute. I said, all of life is like a flight. And they said, well, they put the concept of the book out to about 100 reviewers. They came back and they said the best title would be Flight Plan, with a subtitle, The Real Secret of Success. The book has now been sold all over the world. And so what Flight Plan says is that there's 12 steps to a successful flight, and it's crystallized into 3. Number 1 is to set a goal. Put in your flight plan. Just like every plane has to have a flight plan, which is a very clear, specific plan for where they are going to, their destination, when they're taking off, and the route they're going to take. Number 1 is to set your goals. Decide exactly what you want. Write it down. Make a plan so you can work on it every day. Number 2, key principles, take off. And this is the great difference between winners and losers, is take off, is to have the courage to step out in faith with no guarantees of success. And number 3 is to make continual course corrections. No matter what happens to you, persist until you succeed. And every successful person I've spoken to, including you, when you ask them what is the primary reason for their success, you know what they say is, I just wouldn't give up. I just wouldn't give up. I'm not smarter. I'm not better. I'm not in a better industry, but I just would not quit. And so all successful people make continuous course corrections until they arrive at their destination.
So if I look at it then, because it's a very important point. And I remember Buckminster Fuller used to teach it. He said, you're never on track. Your foot's always left of the line or right of the line. You're never perfectly on track at any point in time.
Yes.
When we look at success, that continual correction factor, I mean, to me, that's one of the most vital things that we can do with someone.
Yes.
So let's go back in. Sorry, Brian, if I can, I know we only got a couple of minutes. I want to go back and say, for you, if you were starting over again today, what would you do differently?
Well, I would just say this, and I've thought about this a lot. The biggest, I would do more due diligence. Bottom line it, the biggest mistakes I've ever made have not been getting enough information before I took action or invested money. I was impetuous. I thought I was smart. I thought I was clever. I thought I had better knowledge. And I found when Ken Fisher wrote his book, the only 3 questions you never ever need to ask, and he's one of the most successful investors in the world, he said, number 1 reason that people fail is they don't get enough information. And so the one thing that I would do differently in every part of my life is I would get more information. I would ask more questions. I would press harder to get more details. I would do my homework. I'd pay the price in advance by doing more information and more due diligence. Biggest single problem I ever made. And if I had done that earlier in life, I would have made fewer mistakes, and I would have made mistakes that were far less costly than they turned out to be. And it's one thing I would pass on to other people is do your homework. Do your research. Get the information. Learn what you need to learn. Talk to the necessary people. Don't ever think that you're too smart to be able to learn from somebody who's smarter than you.
Yeah. Well, look, I am such a firm believer, and I always teach the old Japanese principle or proverb of, slow trigger, fast bullet. Take that little bit extra time learning and put that extra time in learning. You don't have to deal with all of the trouble later on. But, Brian, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I know everybody listening today, and I'm going to have some links on the website for everybody because I know you're doing so many new things and you've got so many programs. Can you just give us a 1 minute on what's the latest programs you're doing, what's the latest things you're doing to help people grow their business?
Well, what we're working on now, we've built a whole new business, and we spent $1 million on it. It's called Business Growth Strategies. And what it is a complete learning track for business owners, for entrepreneurs thinking of starting businesses, for salespeople, for sales managers, for managers, leaders, executives, and for personnel. It's a complete track for each person. And what we do is we have you come to my website, briantracy.com, especially if you're a business owner, and just simply take we call it the Business Profitability Assessment. You assess yourself on 30 grades, which are 30 key result areas in business, and on a scale of 1 to 10, and you push the button Submit, and we immediately give you back a complete assessment of your strengths and weaknesses in every key part of your business, plus we give you a recommended track of things that you have to learn and do to make your business more profitable. And so just go to briantracy.com, click on Business Assessment, and it's free. It's absolutely free. It costs $295 normally, but this is absolutely free, and it gives you a complete track that you can now run on to build a more profitable business. And we're finding hundreds now, thousands of companies are signing up for it to find out just how well they're doing.
Excellent. Excellent. Look, we're going to have the links for everybody on that on our website, right next to where they got the link for this download. But, Brian, absolute pleasure having you on here today. Thank you so much. It's been great listening and hearing from you again today, as it is always.
It's a pleasure, Brad. With you, it's always a pleasure. You're one of the brightest guys I've ever met, so it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Flattery will get you everywhere, my friend.
Talk to you again soon.